Welcome to my tutorial for Super Turrican 2 on the normal difficulty setting. Great game. Probably one of the best action games of the 16-bit era. It's one that I didn't own because PlayStation 1, came out around this time, so I don't even think I saw this game in stores. I probably would have picked it up. But, limited funds back then, so I don't know if I would have ended up realizing how good it was from screenshots. All we had was magazine screenshots mainly back then. I'll definitely be doing a run of the first one, Super Turrican, as well at some point. Maybe soon. Maybe Mega Turrican as well. Those are a few that I'm interested in doing. But, yeah, you'll see I take some damage here and run through some parts because you really don't need to play well. You can just collect the health. And it's faster than fighting all the enemies. So I do that intentionally because I just, it doesn't matter. You can skip some of the enemies. I could have skipped more enemies, but I skip a few parts. It's really a waste of time to deal with all that shit because you can just collect the health in the level. Also, if you collect all the gems on a level, see these gems I'm jumping to collect in this vehicle? If you collect all the gems in each little section, you'll get a 1-up because it'll tally it up at the end of the stage. So keep that in mind. With a little bit of practice using, save and load states on this section, this vehicle section, you could probably learn it pretty easily. How to collect all the gems. And once you get that down, you could get an easy 1-up every time you have to start from this area. I never bothered to do that, but it would have been useful. You can definitely use, any extra 1-ups will definitely help you out a lot in this game. Because it can get tricky, especially later on. What I did for this tutorial, it's different than my unedited successful attempt where it shows all my fuck-ups and everything, lost continues, all that shit. What I did here was I compiled some of my best gameplay, from my practice sessions and my failed attempts, some of my best level playthroughs and things like that. I tried to get some of the better playthroughs. I'm sure I didn't get all the best playthroughs of all my sections in practice. I didn't go through all the hours of footage. But I tried to compile something that was, that demonstrated the sections much better than my actual successful playthrough where I fucked up a lot of easy parts, which so it wasn't very good for a tutorial. So I spent a little extra time doing that. For this, use this rebound weapon and shoot up this wall. And then all you really got to worry about is when he gets down low and shoots those rocks and those panels that pop out occasionally. But you can stay under his bullets, or his rocks most of the time. Now, if you collect 3 of any weapon color, you get, I think, the max power of that weapon. That'd be the max powerful. And I think it memorizes it. So if you accidentally collect a different weapon that you didn't want, and then you collect the previous weapon again later, I think it memorizes what power level it was at, I think. But see how it says I missed 5 gems? If I would have got those extra 5 little gems, I would have got a free 1-up out of it. You also get 1-ups for collecting a lot of gems. Like maybe every 30 gems or so, you'll get a 1-up at the end of the level. But the best way is by collecting all of them in some of the shorter segments, which is easy to do. There's a 1-up above this platform that I just destroyed. You can shoot your lightning attack out and move it around, and you can reveal a platform that you just grapple straight up to above that platform. And then you can reveal more platforms that you grapple onto and eventually get a 1-up, but it's a pain in the ass to maneuver and try to jump on all the platforms. For me, it wasn't worth it. I didn't really want the 1-up that badly. But it's something to keep in mind. If you're struggling and you need more lives later on in the game, then it's easy. It's not too hard to get them early on if you practice a little bit. Just use save and load states to learn how to climb up those platforms or any sections you need. I always use save and load states to practice. As you can see, I showed all my practice pretty much on this game and practice sessions in my playlist. So if you check that out, you'll see that, and you'll see all my failed attempts. I think I posted them all. So you'll see what went into, to learning the game. I didn't practice super heavily, but, I probably spent at least an extra 2 hours of additional practice on various sections. And of course, you get practice every time you fail an attempt because you still have to go through all the previous parts again. So, you get practice that way too. I think I got it on my 4th full attempt, exhausting all my continues. I think my 4th full attempt is when I actually beat the game. I got kind of lucky, though, because I never memorized the fucking shitty maze level. The third world, I really hate that maze portion. So, yeah, you use the right bumper to grapple. That's your grapple hook. You can use flamethrower or whatever here. This is a very easy part, climbing up the wall and shooting these guys. But if you mash your grapple button, instead of jumping and then hitting the grapple button to re-grapple onto a surface, if you just mash grapple and hold a direction like up, right, whatever direction you want to move in, you can actually just keep moving without the risk of falling. So you can rapidly tap it and move without the risk of falling. You won't get as much distance as if you jumped, and then re-grappled, obviously, but it's a way to safely move on areas without fucking yourself over. And you can get a lot of distance if you kind of swing out kind of far and then do it. You'll get a large grapple distance. It's a little hard to explain, but keep that in mind because it can make certain parts a lot easier. I didn't learn it until the very end of the game, or the very end of my attempts. So I could have used that knowledge earlier. Because the second world has some challenging grappling parts, which it would have been very useful to know at that point. So yeah, if you go back this way, you can get some stuff like health and an extra smart bomb and shit like that. Nothing super important, but extra smart bombs can be useful to, for the bosses especially. Because when you hit them with a lot of bombs, you really reduce their health if you need it. Now, I may have mentioned this already, but I kind of wasn't paying attention to my own commentary. But this is basically a compilation. Yeah, I think I mentioned it. This is a compilation of my best attempts that I could find anyway. I didn't spend a shitload of time digging through my footage. But yeah, so this should show everything executed pretty well. Of course, when I'm playing, I'm just playing for the intent of just trying to beat the game. That's all I was trying to do. But then when I went back, I was able to find, some footage of some of the areas that I did better. I like this rebound gun a lot for this section as well. It's great for that mid-boss, and it's also, you can keep it up to here, and it's still great because it bounces around in this confined area and it hits everything. So, very good weapon for this area. You can also use, with your left bumper, you can use your freeze beam and turn the guys to stone briefly and kill them. And then they can't attack you while they're turned into stone. I don't use that move super heavily. It doesn't freeze bosses or anything, but I don't use it super heavily. But it's something to keep in mind. You can just tap it real fast and for a straight shot and just freeze stuff real fast. There's a shield in there if you roll into that little nook in the right corner behind that wall. That's where I got the shield. If you press down and B or A, I'm not sure which one it is, you'll roll into a ball. It's an invincible move. But if anything touches you, you will bounce off. So you can bounce all over the place, but you're invincible while you're in that ball, and you can drop bombs by, I think, pressing, holding the fire button. You can drop rapid bombs. It's something to consider because you'll want to use that for certain parts. Aside from that, your grapple, your electric beam, you basically just have your different weapons. Your smart bomb, I think, is maybe Y on the controller for your bombs. Those are those like nuclear bombs shown in the right corner. Those little nuclear bomb icons are how many smart bombs you have. Now, this is one of the better weapons I use for most of the game. Is this green spread shot. It's the least powerful, but it hits a lot of shit. So I use it a lot. As said, if you collect the same weapon color icon 3 times, I think it hits max power. And it seems to save that. Even if you collect a different weapon, it seems to be saved, unless you, lose a life. Or maybe lose a continue. I'm not sure how that works. It remembers it for a while, though. But, the blue weapon is the laser, which is my least favorite weapon. I only use it, it's this weapon. I only use it a few times in the game. It may be the most powerful, but it has such a narrow, it's so thin. It doesn't really spread out at all, so. For this guy, you can pretty much, as long as you collected the missile power-up, the missiles will continually fly out of you when you hold down the fire button. So, if you wait here long enough, because time stops, you're not timed for this, for the boss fight. So, as long as you can sit under this guy and just let the missiles do all the work. If you get impatient, you can try to jump up and shoot at him. But you don't need to at all. Not until he loses his 2 bottom arms. Then you have to dodge him. Here you can just stay in the middle and just move with them. But yeah, the flamethrower is a short-range weapon. Very powerful. It may be the most powerful. I'm not even sure, but it has short range, but it's kind of a pain in the ass because it runs out and then you got to keep pressing it to reignite it again. It's a little bit of a nuisance to use, but it can be useful. The rebound shot is the shot that I showed myself using, where it bounces, those yellow shots that bounce all around the walls. Very useful for certain situations, confined areas especially, certain bosses. And yeah, I think that covers most of the controls. Now you'll see me using the ball more, where you roll into the ball. It's a good way to dodge shit. You don't have to use it, but it's the fastest way for you to move. So it's worth going into that form. And of course, while you're in ball form, it's automatic until you jump out of it. So you got to hit jump to get out of it. But yeah, very easy boss. Don't forget that if you collect all the gems in a section, you get a 1-up just for collecting all gems in a section when it tallies it up. And, so it's something you may or may not want to do. Depending on, this is a longer section, so it's not the easiest thing to collect all the gems. I didn't bother with that. But some of the shorter sections, it's super easy to collect all the gems. Like right here. See, this is really easy to collect all the gems. I didn't take it too seriously here, and I missed a gem. I think I wasted a life by falling in a stupid area that I shouldn't have. But it's really not hard to get all the gems here. They're right in your path. So just don't jump short like that, and you'll be all right. I should have continued to collect the rest of the gems, but then after I fell, I didn't really care anymore. So I left some gems. See, I left that one. I got sloppy. But if you collect them all, you'll get an extra 1-up out of that. And there's 2 1-ups in this area. So see, watch where I grapple at. If you grapple here, you got to kind of swing and grapple up. And like it can be a little tricky. So you got to be somewhat comfortable with the grappling. But you'll get 2 1-ups. So even if you lose a life, you'll still have an extra 1-up. I always grab the second 1-up with the grapple when I jump off. Try a better way to do that. I didn't get the extra bomb either. But you get the idea. Now this part got really sloppy. I should have just waited instead of being impatient, but I didn't time it good at all, but it was good enough. Now if I would have got all the gems, I would have got an additional 1-up, so I would have had 9 lives by this point if I didn't fall in that fucking pit. Easily. An easy way to have 9 lives by that point. Because you really shouldn't die on this level. I shouldn't have lost a life. Of course you are going to initially, but I'm saying, like, once you practice this game and get used to it, you don't want to die in the first world. Because you want to have some lives for later. This part you just hang, and the unfortunate part about hanging is whenever you switch directions, you start swinging again, which is a pain in the ass. It makes it easy to swing into shit and take damage. But this is very easy. All you have to do here is just, try to pay attention to what direction they're coming from and just, turn to the direction ahead of time if you can. And you definitely shouldn't die on this part. And then the next part, you shouldn't be getting hit at all. So even if you have very little life after this, it's a very easy part. Now this is the part where you should collect every gem, because it's a very easy 1-up to get. So make sure you collect all the gems. Also, try to kill all these guys that appear most of the time, because if you don't, they can roll into you and block you off on the end of this worm. And it's a big pain in the ass. See, I didn't collect those gems, which is very sloppy. I should have. I wasn't even thinking about doing that for whatever reason. I don't think. But it's good to try to kill all those guys, because then they can fuck you up when you're trying to jump off the worm when it starts moving down. You got to wait till the other worm's head appears before you make your jump. Don't make your jumps any earlier than that. Like I said, collect all the gems, because you'll get a very easy 1-up from that. I missed a lot of opportunities in this first level to get very easy 1-ups, which would have actually been very helpful. I could have used them, but I did end up winning anyway, so that was good. So I sloppily missed those 3 gems. If I would have got them, I would have had that 1-up. Now this boss is very easy. He takes a lot of hits, but the only thing you really have to avoid is the sides of his mouth. You'll fall through the sides of his mouth. So that's why you see me jump over the sides of his mouth like that, see? Jumping over it, because that's the part where you'll fall through. I think you can also grapple and hang in there and shoot it, but I didn't really mess with that. All I really do is just try to avoid the sides of his mouth and the tongue. And then later some drops will come down, some acid drops. In these European games, they love acid drops to hit you, or like drips of water. So that does make an appearance. Once you get to that point, the boss is almost dead, though. But yeah, just try your best to avoid, this is the easiest boss, probably. Main boss, anyway. I do sometimes cut it close. I never really practiced this with save states at all because I knew this shit was easy enough, so I didn't really care. But I did cut it close. But I almost never die on this thing, so I didn't really, give a shit. I almost did die, though. That wouldn't have been good. Not a great demonstration of how to fight that boss. You can see the areas where I didn't practice. Because those areas definitely suffer in the playthrough. But yeah, this is another very cool level. The second level is very... the only level I don't like is the third level. It's a shitty water maze. After the water maze, the rest of the level is pretty cool. But even the main boss is pretty lame. But it's somewhat cool. But that's the worst level in the game. But this level's cool. This level's a challenging level as well. Definitely a lot harder than the first. I don't find it to be, that difficult, but I'd say the hardest gameplay level is the fourth level. But for me, the hardest level was the maze. And the third level, because that always fucked me up because I lost all my lives not knowing where the fuck to go. So for this, yeah, if you roll, you'll bypass that beam that pushes you back. It doesn't hurt you, but it pushes you back. So use the roll to get ahead. To get through that beam and to make more progress. But the enemies will bounce you back, so you got to kind of do it carefully. Now this may be an easy section to collect all the gems as well, so keep that in mind if you're trying to get one-ups. I never do it, but it's probably an easy section to get all the gems. I think there's a little bit out of the way when you're jumping down on these platforms a little later on, but that's about it. For this part, you want to keep this. Make sure you kept this rebound weapon, and try to have it fully upgraded by this point because it'll kill these guys faster. If you don't, it's not a big deal. They're easy. It'll just take longer. But yeah, what you want to do is lure out this laser beam by getting close to the underside, the middle of the enemy, and he'll shoot the beam down. And then you shoot that rebound weapon, and it'll climb up the beam and injure the enemy. So that's the trick for that. Now this second one is just slightly more difficult because it has hands and things that come out and hit you aside from just the laser beam. But it's the same strategy. Now I should have played this better and kept more distance. In later playthroughs I actually do play this part much, much better. This was sloppy on this guy, but I can't Frankenstein my entire playthrough, and stitch it together with every little segment. I mean, it would be insane to do that, and it wouldn't look right either. It would be very inconsistent. So I just did it at like main checkpoints. I didn't splice anything together like in the middle of the level. But yeah, if you just keep your distance a little bit, you can dodge those hands pretty easily. Now for this, you got to descend on these platforms and jump down. And there's a few gems to your right. If you go further to the right, you'll find a few gems by some electrical shit. And you can collect those if you want to get all. You see, there's a gem right there. And there may be a few more in areas like that if you're looking for them. Like I said, I wasn't trying to get those, but also be aware of the rocks. You can probably shoot the rocks too if they're coming at you, and you can also duck. But just be aware of them because they can easily knock you off these platforms. You kind of got to just look at where the top of the platform is based on the enemy moving around holding the platform and just kind of guess. You can estimate where the platforms are. You'll get a feel for it. For this, you're going to grapple onto the bottom. Now, this can be a very tricky part. What you want to do here, and I didn't know this at the time. Remember I was talking about how if you jump... you can jump off and re-grapple onto a surface. Well, if you mash grapple, you can just stay on the surface and not worry about falling. You'll never fall as long as you just keep mashing grapple. So, like I said, that would have been a huge help for this part. But I didn't know that you could do that at this point. I should have knew about that, but I just didn't know about it. Now, I end up fighting these enemies for a very long time, and there's a reason for that, and I think I can explain what's going on. if you don't get these guys, if you get these guys too far off screen like what I'm doing, you're going to be fighting them infinitely. They'll never die. I think what's happening is that they're respawning and getting all their life back because the screen keeps resetting. That's my theory on what's going on. So unfortunately, you do have to get kind of close to these guys to be able to take them out. And flamethrower is probably even faster to take these guys out, but like I said, I really prefer this gun for most of the game. But yeah, you got to get these guys within range and not get them off screen too much, or you just won't beat them. So keep that in mind. If they're not dying, it's not you. They don't take a million hits. They do take a decent amount of hits, but not, you know. You see how long I was fighting these fucking things. Look how low my health is. It's kind of ridiculous. So I was wasting a lot of life on that. Now, here is where mashing the grapple button could be very useful. See, I'm jumping and then re-grappling. Jumping, re-grappling. That's a really bad way to do this. If you mash grapple, you can grapple instantly without the risk of falling from that anyway. What you will fall from is the enemies are going to keep using their welding guns or whatever to knock your grapple off. That's the main challenge in this part. And you know, if you fall when the platform at the bottom is not present, you're gonna lose a life. So try to keep an eye on that and try not to fall when that thing is when the floor is not there. See, I only missed 2 gems, so those probably would have been very easy to get. I wasn't even trying to get them. So now this is the part that you should memorize. You're going to see I'm playing it pretty sloppy, and the reason is because I practiced this segment maybe 2 days prior to actually doing this. So I'm not sure, actually, because I got this footage from older footage, so I'm not sure how fresh my practice was, but I think I was a little bit out of practice, so I didn't remember where all this shit was coming. But if you memorize this, it's really easy. It's not hard. But I was kind of just trying to react in the moment because I forgot what was coming when, you know, so I do take a lot of damage I shouldn't have taken. Now this is where I talk about, you know, really use those save and load states and play this on an emulator so you can practice each segment you need and refine your, you know, save at the beginning of a section like this and just keep practicing it. Try to beat it 2 or 3 times in a row without losing a life. Now I didn't practice that thoroughly because I got a rough idea of the practice I needed, and I kind of know how much practice I need at this point, so I do it a little rough. And then I kind of refine my practice later. It probably does end up taking me longer in the long run because if I would have practiced it more thoroughly, I probably could have saved myself more time. Because redoing the whole game whenever you fuck up on a part is not a fast way to beat a game. So I'm sure you know, I am a little stubborn when it comes to practicing efficiently. Sometimes I don't want to practice that long. I get impatient. But the more you practice, the more it's going to benefit you. Just remember that. Your muscle memory will take over and the game will just become, you know, more of a relaxed experience and not so intense. It's intense at first because you're like, what the fuck is hitting me? What's going on? You know, games are always intense when you don't know what's going on and you don't know the layout. But this game it can be pretty relaxed once you get it down. It doesn't. I don't find the game to be that difficult, but I play through a lot of games, so it's relative. What I find to be difficult is actually, you know, a part that my 2 friends, Bob Ruppels and the Ripper 999, found to be very easy. It's a very simple water maze, which for a lot of people will probably be like, why do you find this hard? You know, it's super simple. It's not even complicated. But for me, my mind just goes crazy when it comes to mazes. I don't know what it is. I just lose my shit. I fucking hate mazes. It's one of my huge pet peeves with games. Now, I am going to get a tablet eventually that I'll be sitting my ass on with the recliner when I'm playing the game, and I'll start using maps and stuff for some games like Metroid on NES. I want to play through games like that have a lot of areas where you can really get lost. So I will be doing that in the future. But here I haven't been doing that. I've just been kind of hoping for the best. And I got lucky on my Waterworld playthrough. But anyway, for this part, not much to explain. Just roll when the beam comes out. This second one is a little harder and faster, I think. But yeah, just roll under the beam, you know. I play this part very fucking sloppy. Somehow I managed to... actually, I did end up losing a life here. Because the enemy moved down when I didn't expect it. So, you know, you shouldn't have as much trouble as I had here. I was just getting sloppy for whatever reason. Usually I don't do this bad on this part, but... you know, it's hard to have a perfect playthrough unless you really practice a game. You know, and I don't do that really. Like, what I do is I just beat games. But, and I beat extreme modes and stuff too, but I don't really go back and do refinements on my playthroughs. Now, what I did here, like I said, was kind of cool. It's an interesting reason to keep all my old practice footage and stuff, because I can kind of stitch together a better playthrough that demonstrates all the sections better, you know, based on some of my better performances. But I still show all the raw footage, so you know what I mean? I don't do anything deceptive. I always explain what I'm doing in my videos. So always check the descriptions, and if it's a commentary video, I'll explain that in a commentary. Yeah, what I was doing prior, trying to climb up that wall, was trying to find a 1-up. I didn't know at this point exactly where the 1-up was, but I'll show you. It's right after this boss. Now, this boss can be a little hard. I like having a green spread shot for this boss. You can really fuck yourself in this game sometimes by having the wrong weapons for the situation, but here I like the green spread shot. And you want to try to, you know, keep some height. You want to be kind of far up or far down from where he is, so that the spread shot can kind of hit him from far away. Because if you get too close, he can easily shoot you. And you got to just kind of keep an eye out and just try to stay in between his turret. Sometimes you got to do some tricky maneuvering. You know, this is another thing that I didn't really practice much at all. I practiced it almost none except for when I got to it. So yeah, it is kind of a shitty performance. Now don't do this. See how I grappled onto that brain while there were still flames on it? Do not do that. That was very bad of me to do, because I could have easily fallen into the pit, because it only lets you grapple onto that brain like right when the flames disappear. So wait till the flames are not on the brain anymore and then grapple onto it. It's not going to go away or anything. You'll have time to grapple onto it. If you do it too soon, you will fall into the pit, because the game doesn't want you to grapple onto it at that point for whatever reason. So don't do that. But for this part, climb up into this area you saw me grapple onto after the boss, and go in that invisible wall and get your 1-ups. Use your gunshots or your freeze beam to reveal the 1-up and the explosives and stuff. Now for these parts, I didn't explain how to do these. Don't try to watch these and dodge these. What you're supposed to do is wait for the first green beam to disappear, and then you start walking forward. And they'll be gone while you're walking. It's strange. It's hard to explain, but you walk through the first one and you just keep walking. That's how you do those parts. You do not stand there and try to wait for the beam to disappear and then walk. Or, I mean, like, you don't try to get in between the beams and dodge them, is what I'm getting at. If you get in between them, you're going to get hit. You got to try to just wait for the first beam of any series to disappear, and then you start walking, if that makes any sense. If not, just ask me and I'll try to explain it better. Yeah, so now here's another scene. This can be tricky. You want to try to get as many bullets in these assholes as you can, and be aware of the mines that they're dropping. But you want to try to kill as many of these guys as possible, because when too many get on the area, it gets very dense and hard to dodge anything. So you want to try to take them out. Try to have those bullets kind of going in diagonally to them, and then line yourself up and finish them off. You know, I guess is one way to explain it. But you'll get a feel for it. I recommend practicing these kind of sections with save and load. Now there's a little bit of a tricky part after this part. You'll get some health back, so don't worry too much. You got a heart here, another one appears here, and then one to the far right side. Now I think the hearts you don't need to collect all those, obviously. You only need to get a full health bar, but I think they may be random in where they appear. But anyway, yeah, for this part, I count 6 rams. So do this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then get out of there, and you won't take damage. So use your dash. It's either B or A. You'll do a forward dash. Do that in the middle of the screen, the dash, because if you don't do it in the middle of the screen, you're likely to dash into one of the side walls when you move left or right to try to get around the guy. You have to dash forward and then hit left or right to circle around the guy and get to his side. And like I said, as soon as you do that, be ramming him immediately and count 6 rams. Make sure you're counting them. Count 6 rams and then immediately start moving off of the guy and get ready to repeat it again. And make sure you repeat that cycle from the middle of the screen. Don't do it on the edge. Very easy to hit into the walls and die. And of course, practice that. Now here I kind of fucked myself. This is a very easy section, but it's also very easy to pick up weapons you don't want. And you can really fuck yourself if you get a shitty weapon for the spider, because there's a spider boss coming up, and if you collect the rebound weapon or the laser, the blue laser, you're pretty much going to have a shitty time with the spider. You know, unless you're really good at hitting it. But it's going to be hard to hit because you can't really line up directly with it without taking damage most of the time. So you want the green spread shot is what I recommend. The flamethrower is the second best weapon. It's more powerful. It arcs down a little bit, so it can hit the spider if you're above him, but it's not great. So the best weapon to have really is the green spread gun as far as I'm concerned. I would recommend keeping that for the spider. Now for this part, the only thing, if the missiles go all the way up and you're standing on them, you're going to fall down, see? But you can direct your fall by holding left or right a little bit. So you're not fucked if that happens. You can still direct yourself. You mainly want to stay on the low missiles, you know what I mean? So that, and the low ones and the ones that are moving slower, so you have time to jump down onto the next one. You'll get a feel of where they appear on the bottom, because a lot of times you jump before you can really see them, but you'll get a feel for this. I recommend practicing it. It's not hard, but you don't want to lose lives on stupid shit. Now, you can try to collect all the gems, but I never even bothered with that. I only collect the gems, all the gems in places where it's easy to do it. I don't like to take a lot of risks. I didn't practice, you know. I mean, I could practice that to get more one-ups, but I don't really care. I knew I was going to beat the game. So, yeah, for this, I got the flamethrower, which I really didn't want, because now I got to get closer to the spider. But what I recommend doing is having the green spread shot weapon and getting farther below the guy and farther above him, like I did with that other mini-boss, so that the green shots will hit him when he's far above you, and you won't get hit by his shots. Now for this, you can kind of stay head-on with this boss as long as you have a little distance, and just shoot straight for the most part, and you'll kill the spiders and you'll damage him. So that's a very easy part on the fight. That's the easiest part for this fight. This part can be tricky, especially if you have like the flamethrower or something where you have to get closer to the boss. I do end up, you know, actually dying on this, but see, the flame does kind of arc down a bit though, so sometimes you get damage with it. But I really did not want this weapon. And of course, you can use bombs if you want, if you have them, to speed it up. Most of the time, I recommend only saving the bombs for the boss fights. And if you have a boss down really well, you might as well save your bombs. I think they carry over to the next world. So, you know, might as well not use them if you don't need them, and just fight the boss for a little longer. So yeah, the next world is shit. And I'm going to explain that. Nothing more to say about this boss. He just does the same shit. But yeah, now I did accidentally edit out the first section of the third world. However, the only thing that happens in that section, it's a very short hallway with some enemies, and then you jump into a jet ski. So really, I didn't think it was important enough to re-edit back into the playthrough. It's redundant. There's nothing I can tell you in a tutorial that's going to help you on that part. It's super easy. Just duck, shoot, duck, shoot, duck, shoot. That's all you really got to do. And there's many more sections like that in this shitty water level anyway, so you'll get the idea. Now this is the part, this water level on this submarine is the part that gave me so much fucking trouble because it killed multiple playthroughs where I wasted most of my continues on this. And the reason is because I got super fucking lost. Basically, you have to go into 4 different entrances. You have to find 4 different entrances, and one of them you don't want to go into until you've destroyed the other 3 gates. If you accidentally go into that one, it's just a waste of your time. Because there's going to be electric beams in your way that you have to disable by disabling the gates. So yeah, I got very lucky here. I don't have any tips on how to navigate this maze because I got very fucking lucky. I would say just follow the path I take here if you need to do it that way. But I would recommend watching a speed run of the game and then following the path the guy takes in the speed run because he probably doesn't take any wrong turns. I'm sure he memorized it for the speed run. So, you know. Another thing I do to help me is I collect gems for one reason in this area. And it's not for the one-up bonus. The reason I collect gems in this area is to see where I've been in the level. I use it as a way of tracking where I've already been, because the gems do not respawn. The enemies do. So I collect the gems to show me where I've been in the level. And that helps me not to retread old areas where I've been. So it helps a little bit with that, I think. It's a suggestion if you're having trouble with the maze. That's what helped me. It's one of the things that helped me. So for this, I recommend getting this rebound weapon. It's the best weapon to have, because then you can do this. Just stay ducked the entire time and just switch directions. Just switch back and forth. Shoot the guys, shoot the generator. Shoot the guys, shoot the generator. Keep doing that, and the generator will be destroyed, and the enemies won't be able to hit you. They can't hit you if you're ducking. So, now if you don't have the rebound shot, you can do the same thing with the spread shot. You just have to get a little farther away from the generator so that the spread shot can fan out a little bit and hit it. But it takes longer, so I recommend having the yellow rebound shot for this. I think it's the best weapon to have for this part. It's quite a good weapon overall, but not good for every situation. So yeah, this part that you just did, you're pretty much going to do the identical thing 3 times. And you got to find the other 2 entrances with these gates. And then you got to find the final entrance, which lets you go through to the next section of the game. And it's this section that I fucking hate. This kind of was ruining the game for me, to be honest with you, because I hate mazes, man. I fucking hate mazes. And the thing is, I would end up losing a lot of lives because I would get impatient because I kept getting lost. So while I'm trying to find my bearings, all these assholes are draining out my lives. And I'm running out of time. I mean, it's just the whole thing just fucking annoyed the shit out of me. I didn't even care about using some of the bombs because I just wanted to get through this shit. You know, you could tell how much I hated this level. But anyway, the rest of the levels the rest of the world is kind of cool. But it's still way lower quality than the rest of the game. So this was a shit stain in the game for me. The music is good in this section, I'll give it that. And there is one cool section, that's the 3D driving sequence is very cool. It's kind of like Gyrus, the old arcade game Gyrus. But yeah, aside from that, like I said, I really hate this level. But I was surprised when I beat this with no lives. I got here with 0 lives in my main playthrough. My successful playthrough, and I managed to beat it without losing a life. And I got through it fairly fast. I didn't get lost for that long. Maybe I was starting to get a hang of where to go a little bit. I think I was starting to get a little bit of a feel for it, man, but I fucking hate it. Because it's also easy to go into the wrong area where there's not a generator to destroy, but it's like a gate. And like I said, you can't go through the gate until you destroy the 3 generators. So it's easy to go into that one if you don't know which one you never know which one you're fucking going to. It just feels like a random shitstorm for me. I'm probably making a big deal out of it. I mean, you know, it's probably not that fucking hard, but that just shows how I get really frustrated with mazes. I'm also not huge on like puzzles in games, especially action games. I mean, if it's a puzzle game, you expect that, but you know, if it's like... Luckily, this is a straightforward action game until you get to this fucking maze level. But it's an awesome straightforward action game aside from, you know, and I love the multi-genre approach with shooter levels, 3D driving levels, all kinds of cool shit. Very cool game. Levels where you're fighting while you're grappling, you know, you don't see that in a lot of games. There's a lot of great action moments. I mean, this is definitely up there with Contra 3. I mean, you know, Super Contra 3 and some of the better action games of this time. But yeah, like I said, I think the maze, the Ripper999 pointed out to me that this is kind of like a Z-shaped artificial maze. It's not like a real maze. Which is kind of true. A lot of parts are open. I don't think everything is blocked off by walls. But there's a lot of shit up and down. You don't always know where the fuck you are. And unfortunately, you know, I'd love to offer some better tips for navigating this, but I don't have them. I got very lucky. You know, sometimes I recognize it because I see certain enemies, you know, certain arrangements of enemies, and then I'm like, okay, this looks like the area that leads to this pipe. So sometimes I based it on stuff like that. But I would say mostly I just got really lucky. And I try to collect the gems to give me an idea of where I've already been. Those are my 2 main tips if you're having trouble with the maze. But if, worst case scenario, you know, if you have a tablet or a phone or something, bring up a speedrun video and just follow it step by step and see exactly where to go if you're really, really having trouble. I was considering doing that. Now, if I had my tablet, I might do that. I'm going to get a tablet eventually, but I didn't feel like doing that on my shitty phone. And I'm fucking stubborn. I just figured I would just deal with it and hope for the best. I should have practiced this, the maze area. I didn't really practice it. So that was my fault. But it didn't matter in the end. Same shit here, though, yeah. And use your electric beam to scan the back wall, and sometimes you can get extra items, like usually bombs and shit like that, which you may want. Though it is a little dangerous to go to that back wall. A lot of times I get shot trying to do it because the enemies constantly come in and shoot. But yeah, don't bother getting the items in those platforms when you initially come onto the sections because you should already have the weapon you need, so you shouldn't have to upgrade anything. There's no health in there or anything, or no bombs. Nothing special in those things, so don't waste your time shooting those platforms, those metal platforms when you first come in. It's a waste of time. it's a waste of health, really, because you can easily get shot while trying to shoot those platforms and get the items in there. And it's a bad habit, you know. Most of us, when we play these games, want to try to collect everything, but it's inefficient. There's nothing you're going to need in there. You should already have your weapon. Once you get it once, you know, you're good to go. So yeah, here I moved down a bit, and I think the last one I needed was down in here somewhere. I don't even know how the fuck I knew generally where to go. It's like I had some fucking, you know, it's like I was possessed or something and something was taken over. Because I never knew where the fuck I was going in this level, but somehow it's almost like I knew where to go. Which kind of blows my fucking mind, because I mean, when I was playing this, I didn't feel like I knew where the fuck I was going. I think I also got kind of lucky, and I probably recognized some certain things, like all these guys on these little jet skis coming at me. I know those guys come in certain areas where the pipes are usually. They seem a lot of them, like when you see a lot of them coming in, I think it's usually when you're close to one of those pipes. That's what I noticed. So there's a few telltale signs that you can use if you're still lost, but you may just have to play it over and over again, and you may just have to hope you get lucky when you get back here, unless you just practice it with save and load state and just really learn it. But anyway, no more generators to destroy here. This is the final. I actually almost fucked this up and almost would have had to redo the entire... I got really nervous here and sloppy. And I would have had to redo that whole stupid maze. I probably would have started losing continues and getting lost again because I got so fucking lucky. So now this section is really cool. This reminds me of Gyrus. Now you have a dash button. If you press the dash button and you're holding a direction, you'll make a large, fast movement in one direction. It's either B or A, I think. So just try to dodge as best you can. I almost beat this without losing a life, but at the end I got sloppier and ended up dying. I died right when the level ended, which was kind of a weird timing. You can kind of move with these things as you see, like destroy one of them and move in a circle around like with them, you know what I mean? That's what I tried to do. You also don't get hurt when you ram into the side of those jet skis, but you will get hurt with with any kind of bombs you touch. You basically just can't touch the bombs. That's the only thing you really got to dodge. So you got to kind of get used to the patterns. I recommend practicing it with save and load states, obviously, to try to get decent at it and not lose a life on it. I don't think I practiced this much at all with save and load states. I found it pretty easy, and it didn't give me a lot of trouble, so I didn't really try to refine it. So yeah, this is more of me adapting to what I'm seeing than actually learning it, because I really didn't learn it too well. But yeah, see, I died right when it ended. Almost got it without dying, but you get the general idea. I think that was a decent enough demonstration. Now here you'll see I edited it because I fucked up on this part. So now I have 2 lives all of a sudden. That's because this playthrough is spliced together, as I said, with some of my better runs and attempts. Though, like I said, I didn't dig through all my practice footage or anything. So yeah, basically what I recommend doing here is not collecting all the gems and shooting a single missile right when a single precise missile shot when you're close to that ball. You have to hit the ball to break that chain. So just shoot one missile. If you hold it down, the missiles come out at an uneven pace, and it can really fuck you. Just shoot one missile when you need to shoot it. Also, you saw the 1-up I grabbed. Keep an eye for that 1-up and try to grab it. So try to keep the bottom part of the screen somewhat visible so you can see when that 1-up appears, and try to be ready to grab it. Get that bomb if you can, too. The reason I say don't collect all the gems is because collecting all the gems gives you a 1-up. But if you do that, then you're not going to be able to collect the 1-up because one of the gems is in the way of that. So I just say, just collect the 1-up, don't bother with the gems. Now this Stingray is very fucking easy. All you got to do is jump this pendulum thing. The only part of the pendulum that hurts you is the lighter gray part at the bottom. Now just keep running left to right. As long as you keep moving pretty much, this thing will never hit you. So you just keep moving either left or right. And just keep your run going. You'll get used to it. Now with this is very easy as well. I just exploit I use all my bombs here to get rid of some of the rocks and do extra damage because, I just want to kill the boss and I don't want to lose a life here because I want to have all my, my 3 lives or 4 lives for the next very hard level. So yeah, you really don't have to worry about shooting the Stingray when you're down here. You're not going to be able to do much to it. So just focus on dodging when you're down here. Now, when you're riding this, it's going to be the same shit again and again, but it gets faster. Now, when you do go in the submarine, jump up into the submarine when you can, obviously, when he's done doing the routine where you got to dodge. You can switch the direction you're facing by pressing either B or A. So you're going to use that to shoot in the direction that you want, depending on what side you're facing the ray. Now, when a rock comes down, switch sides, switch direction, switch the direction you're facing. And then, another rock comes down, do it again, and you won't take any damage that way. You don't want to stay there when the rocks are falling down because you'll just get hit. So if you don't want to take damage, do that. And that's it. That's really the boss just repeats those segments again and again and make it a little faster. Like I said, as long as you're running left or right, usually you're not going to get hit. You just want to keep moving for that part. Yeah, and now, like I said, if a rock comes, go to the other side, switch directions. A rock comes, go to the other side, switch directions. As long as you do that, you shouldn't really get hit too much on that. Sometimes that pendulum, it slings really slow and you don't expect it. And I jump into it sometimes, but aside from that, you do get used to it. Again, practice with save and load states to get familiar with, with any part that can be troublesome. And I show my full practice session, practicing through the game, and my other practice sessions and failed attempts and all that, so you can see how I practiced exactly. Though, like I said, my practice was kind of rough. I didn't do a really refined practice. I knew I didn't think I really needed to for this game. But I felt like I had it down good enough to eventually win. But yeah, so this is one of the hardest sections of the game. For me, it was the maze, but this should have been the hardest segment for me because it's a pretty long segment. It's easy to take a bunch of little hits on stupid shit, like little bullets and stuff like that. Now remember, when these barriers show up, there's going to be barriers that show up. You have to shoot the green part of the barrier. See those barriers? Make sure your bullets are hitting on those green links. Otherwise, you don't do any damage to the barrier, and the barriers can kill you if you don't get rid of them in time. Now, I'm actually shooting here, but it's not showing in the recording. That's why the barriers are exploding and enemies are dying. For some reason, the recording did not pick up my gunfire. And I don't know why. It's very strange, but probably something to do with this weird graphics in the scrolling or something. But when I was playing, I never had a point where I didn't see my bullets. So just ignore that. Just hold down the fire button the entire time. No reason to stop shooting. For this part, if you move to one side fast enough, the lasers will never get down to you. Either the left or right side, depending on what laser section you're on. See, here you move left. So just hold the left direction, and you'll just keep moving left and dodging all the beams. The only thing you really got to worry about then is the stupid enemies and the little tiny bullets. Your hitbox is really big here, so you get hit easily. It's an awkward shaped character, and you move very slow. So, you only have to move left and right. You can't move up or down. So, but it can still be very tricky. I would say it's probably the hardest section in the game for me, aside from the maze. But like I said, the maze really is not that hard gameplay-wise. It's just very easy to get impatient and frustrated if you don't know where the fuck you're going. And, then I start playing like shit, because I start, just getting fucking reckless. But yeah, this segment goes on for a while. Now this boss, it's not too hard. It has 3 phases. The first phase is just going to drop these missiles. Now you can do one of two things. You can position yourself so you shoot the missiles to the side they're coming on, which is more dangerous. Or you can just do what I'm doing here and just move left or right to dodge the missiles and just keep, shooting at the weak point that makes the enemy flash, the mouth, when the mouth is open. Now for this second phase, he shoots out orange fireballs. You want to get used to the timing when he's going to release those fireballs. And try to stay on the opposite side, left or right. You don't want to be on the side where he is when he shoots the fireballs, so try to be out of range. You do not want to be shooting up at him as he's shooting the fireballs down at you, because then you're just going to get hit. So try to space yourself and time it. The little rings you got to watch out for too, obviously, but they're easier. They're easier to dodge overall, I think. Now this part's very dangerous, but it's not hard. If he distorts his face like that, when you're below him, he'll push you into the abyss and give you an instant death. Now it doesn't always kill you if you manage to move while he's going down. You can get out of it sometimes, but it's not worth doing. So just avoid it. You'll get used to it, to the pulse. You know what I mean? See, I almost got pushed out and killed there, but you'll get used to the rhythm. Of course, practice it with save and load states. Do the same thing you were doing with the fireballs, and that's about it. So if you beat this, I'd say you beat the hardest part of the game, and you're almost done with the game. So now these next two parts are pretty easy. They just take kind of long, these bosses. It's mainly 2 boss fights. Now for this part, you mainly just want to run and duck to avoid getting hit, like you did similar in those corridors. It's harder to see the bullets against the background in this part than it was in the water level, but it's the same kind of shit. Laser works good for this part, so I recommend using the laser for this first part. Also, if you want to get all the gems, you have to like reach up with your grappling hook, and you can't see the gems. They're invisible, so it's a pain in the ass. I wouldn't recommend getting them unless you know where they are, but you're going to take hits trying to get them if you don't know where they are. So yeah, for this part, just roll under him and keep shooting him. You know, when he's getting close, just roll and get under him, and then keep shooting at him again. I recommend getting that green spread shot for him. I find it works better than any other weapon for this part. So, yeah, and then for this second phase, you know, instead of trying to jump and dodge those shots when he's about to shoot, because you got to get the timing just right, if you go into your ball, you'll be invincible in ball form. So just use your ball to your advantage, and then you don't have to worry about timing it perfect. See, like this? Then you don't have to worry about timing it, and you can get some bombs in on him, too, and get under him. So you just do that. That makes it really easy. Otherwise, you have to jump at the right time, and you have to dodge his various shots. But you don't have to really worry about it. And then eventually, that's it. So yeah, I didn't lose a life on this attempt, and you know, that's a good way to do him. So now the next boss, I found him to be extremely easy, but he takes a lot of shots. You got to get in the zone and just be focusing. But really, it's pretty fucking easy. I recommend getting the yellow rebound shot for this boss. So you're probably not going to have that when you first come in here. So you can still shoot him with the green shot, but you know, the best weapon to have, I found, was the yellow rebound shots. So yeah, you're going to dodge this flame wall. Just keep moving right. You should dodge that. The boss's legs won't hurt you. The only thing you got to worry about is when he does various attacks. You got to dodge his arms, either his chainsaw arm or his drill arm. And sometimes ceiling tile. See, when he's down like that, you can shoot him when he's in that glass container. When it comes up under his legs, that's when you can shoot it. The rebound shot is great because it climbs up the boss's legs and into the weak spot of the boss. So for this part, I like to use the roll because you're invincible during the roll. So I like to use it because if those tiles fall and hit me when I'm in the ball form, it doesn't hurt me. So I use it a lot for that. Now here I stupidly lost a life by going into the flames for some reason. A lot of times while you're dodging shit, you know, you also pick up weapons you don't want. But don't worry about that. Just get them anyway because it's better to take the weapon than to take damage. Because eventually the weapon you want will come back. And you can still damage him with all the weapons. It just may not be as efficient, but you can still get in damage. And you want to learn how to dodge his various arms. Like aside from the tile thing, when the tiles are coming down, just use the ball. And for this thing where he pounds the ground, just get used to where he pounds, you know, in segments. You can see where he's going to pound next. He always does it the same. He goes all the way to the right, then all the way to the left. So just get used to dodging it. You can use the ball to dodge that too, but you don't want to use the ball too much because you want to have enough left to dodge the, because there's a ball meter, as you see. You probably know by now. You don't want to waste it all on that. So yeah, for this, all you got to do is jump over the saw when it comes your way. It's very easy. Like I said, these bosses' patterns are very easy. It's really a very easy boss. And that's it. Those are really the only 3 moves that he does. You know, so once you learn to dodge those 3 moves, that's all you need to know to beat this boss. It just takes a while. Again, use save and load state to practice, you know, all the phases of the final stage, because the final stage can be very hard. I mean, the main issue for me was that first shooter section, but, you know, it may be different for you. You may have trouble with this boss. You know, you just want to make sure you practice everything. I didn't have to practice the last 2 bosses too much, but I did practice them a decent amount just to make sure I had it down. Yeah, and I mean, so he's probably not going to be alive much longer, but that's all he does. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions or requests. I'm going to try to do Super Turrican soon. That's a much easier game than this one. So that shouldn't take me too long. There's a shitload of 1-ups in that game, too, and it's apparently a lot easier because my friend Bob Ruppels, who beat it in the past, said it's way easier because he beat both of them as well. And I remember it not being that difficult. But yeah, thanks for watching.